Yeah, I just wanted to do that because supplementals are, and I want to just be like, be glad. See, just think about the note that you're gonna produce next. I guess like while you're sustaining one note, think about how you're gonna go on to the next note. So we're just gonna go faster just to work with it.
I got that tab open.
Good. Just be flat again, just like for faster. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, is that you cut off?
Is there a piece with, you know that there's a hey, you know there's a piece that has a signature?
They are all one. That's the one you know, right? You just have to. I'm just scared I'm gonna do that.
Okay. How much time do you have? Okay, so what I'm gonna do. So what we're gonna do is go for enough major. However, we're gonna go person by person, note by note. So for example, Allison, you're gonna start with an F, make a rhythmic like whatever, like a pattern, and then everyone else is gonna follow that. After that, like Hannah's gonna do G, do that pattern.
Wow.
I'll just like point. So we'll go.
One note?
We start at F major scale. Yeah. So like this way, then yes.
Is there any do you know where I can find a bass drum mallet?
Yeah.
The drumstick.
Old lady.
Oh yeah.
Or users. Probably not. Yeah, I just put that spoon right on the ground, man. Oh, you were talking about my spoon. Yeah. It's been a lot. Where's my keys? Oh, they're over there. I'm gonna give you a mallet. My mallets are up front. I'm sorry. I'm moving around.
Just like any little like 1 bar measure, rhythm, and then everyone's gonna follow suit. They'll go this way.
Are there any other instruments you need?
I was planning on just doing bass drum and do you have a triangle maybe?
Oh. Yeah, but I'd have to go get it. I need it. I can go get it.
Okay.
You know, I think it's fine.
We're gonna start with the Allison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, and but also do you get a snare drum?
Yes, I have to go get it.
Okay, do you want myself?
No, it'll take me like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Like a calm response.
You got it.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4. We'll start on D with you. Yeah, count to D. 1, 2, 3, 4. and then starting you will go down.
Should we start on the fifth? Because there's only 5 people left. Like 5.
Okay. So starting on half the C. Yeah. One decision. Okay. Decision. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You take the stairs down, it's gonna fall. You can leave that on the ground because I already set this
I swear. Am I up?
You set out the snare drum
That was
before.
now whatever note you
So.
want. Yeah, 12 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I know, that's why
I was like, this and bring it down. This will change how tight the snare drum is on there. Snare drum on. You always want the snares to be facing this way, and that turns them on and off. So it's not fitting in there right now, so we need to loosen this part. So you come in. Then she looked at it.
I know.
Okay, and then make sure it's nice and snug. You twist it back up, so it's on a bit of an angle. We don't want that, so I'm gonna go back to the angle, lug the snare so that it's pretty even, and that looks pretty darn good. And then you've got triangle bass drum beaters, triangle beaters right here. Don't lose those; they're very expensive.
What do you notice?
Yeah.
What is the text for you?
Yep.
I expected. There are different clouds. Yes. Can you see the cirrus cloud?
Can I go to the bathroom?
Sure. Go ahead. Cirrus cloud.
Right?
Huh? The wispy ones. That is correct. What about? What about thundercloud? I mean, yeah. So, thank you. That was great. Ryan, can you do it again? Everybody. Yeah, there it is. And then the last cloud we have is the cumulus cloud. That is what? Aiden.
One that looks like a cotton ball.
Yeah, it's a big fucking cotton ball. That's great. Okay. So I want to start right at the beginning. So like Connor said, cirrus clouds are very wispy. That doesn't mean they're weak, but they're very light and very calm. So I want to start right at the beginning, and we're just going to go till measure 9. And everybody who's playing, so flute, oboe, or not oboe, flute, clarinet, yeah, oboe's playing. I want you guys to play there, and alto saxophone, of course. And then everybody, if you're not playing, can you just go stop, 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 stop. Very light, but still kind of gentle.
Sorry.
No, that's great. Yes, Carmela?
Sorry, can I go to the bathroom?
Are you having some milk?
Yeah, I had Chipotle earlier.
How about, since you just went, I think you can hold it till after.
Okay, good job. You're done.
So, is that okay with the instructions?
Yes.
So, if you're not playing, boom, stop, stop. And if you are playing, just play very light, legato. 1, 2, 3. Can you review our flute hand position, please? So left hand is going to be closest to your body. Oh yeah. See, you'll know it lines up because this little pinky will be right by your feet. You got it. That's great. Alright. Let's try that again. The umbabas were great. Can you make it even lighter? Be like a cloud. From the top again. 1, 2, 3. Alright, when I get off, can you please get off with everybody else? Alright, so alright, so once you get to thundercloud, that's at measure 23. Do you guys see these things above the notes? Do we know what that means? Accent, yes, Carmela, thank you. So what do you guys think accent means? When you see an accent, what do you do? Aiden.
Play like you're angry.
Maybe. I think when I see an accent, hey Emma, can we sit up tall with our ears off? I'm not gonna lie, I've seen that this whole time and I thought it was just you.
No. I was gonna lay down on the ground.
Anyway, so accents. When we see an accent, I think that each note has to be very separate from the other note. They need to be like, not like 6 feet apart, but they just need to have some space in between. So, I know, I'm so sorry. Oh god. Alright, let's start right at 23. Think of separating the notes, giving that big and putting space in between. 23. 1, 2, 3, 4. Percussion break with our one percussionist. Go crazy on that triangle for like 10 seconds. Go.
Yeah.
Louder. This is a big thunderstorm.
Do you want to play bass drum instead? Is there bass drum part there?
There is, but like
There's
it's just
also,
a triangle.
I think there's also a snare if you have sticks.
Yeah.
Just go nuts on the snare. It can sound terrible. It's okay. That's okay. Alright, well she's getting that set up. Everybody let's go back to 23. I think even more space. That was much better though. Alright, 23. 1, 2, here we go. Just go nuts. Just go nuts.
Wait, where are we? Where are we? Sorry.
We're gonna start, measure before 32, and you're just gonna go nuts until I cut you off.
Oh, okay.
6 drum solo.
Okay.
Let's hear it. Nice. That was great, guys. Can anyone tell me what happens after the thundercloud in between that and Q? Like, what do you imagine in your brain? A rainbow? I like that. I think this little section at 40, when we're in 3-4, is like the sun has come out. The storm is over, and everybody's happy to watch the sun.
Okay, let's pause right there. So when you were preparing for this, what was your mindset?
Really just focusing on the style and trying to mimic the cause that the composer has tried to express.
That's wonderful, isn't it? So So when we talk about grade 1 music, what age are we thinking about? What are those ages?
10 and 12.
Yeah.
Like 8.
Huh?
Like 8 and 9.
Well, if we're looking at, again, our 5th graders, my daughter is 10, is in 4th grade.
Oh, I was like 9.
So we're looking at 11, 12, 13, depending on when we're starting right there. So again, everything you're doing is wonderful. But are we taking into account, we're dealing with college students right now that know, well, kind of, that are responding really well to everything that you're doing. And so this is what I want you to think about. Even at the very beginning of the stop, 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 stop. That was a wonderful exercise, but we did the typical thing that we do at the college level. I want all of us to think about when we're going through rehearsal techniques, think about when you go to the doctor, at least this is our hope. We analyze the situation. Hopefully we get a diagnosis, right? Of like, what's wrong? What's happening here? And at the collegiate level, we often analyze and diagnose, and then they fix it, right? So where's the prescription? So are you happy? Are you listening to what's happening here? I know part of this is the time frame that we have, and we're trying to. I know your focus is on style, and your style for what you're doing is wonderful. You got very, very pretty conducting. It's very clear, but none of that matters. Part of it depends on where we are with the rehearsal sequence, right? Are we halfway through the year? Are we at the beginning stages of it? So some of our things that we have here, again, they're great. And they're going to respond, but if we're talking about 12 or 13-year-olds, they're not necessarily, they're still thinking about how to do all this stuff and all the oomph-ah. So like one thing to think about is have everybody do that before we even start to play. The question about the accent, it's a very good question. But did you do anything to reinforce that? So let's go back to that concept. Let's talk about that. And I know I don't want to steer you too clear because I know you want to get through this, but part of this is when we're working with grade 1 music, our natural instinct. How many of you have worked with that age level? And to what extent? Lessons? So, when you're working with these students, and part of this, we got to find that fine line because we don't want to treat them like they don't know anything. And like, well, they're elementary kids, so conducting is not going to matter. We have to teach them what this means. And so maybe we taught them already what that cutoff is. When Mr. Bassoon over here was, when Ryan kept going on, and was like, Ryan, you're supposed to, cut off. A lot of kids be like, what does it mean when you say cut off? I don't know what that means. Right? Depending on where we are. So again, I don't want to get too super analytical here, but part of this, we need to teach a little bit differently. And conceptually, it's wonderful. It is. You got it all there. We just now need to readdress that, refocus that for that age. Because some of those concepts, we can give a laundry list, right? In the college level, a lot of times, flutes, you need to take care of this. Oboes, you need to do this. Bassoons, you need to do this. Trombones, yeah, you're trombone, so yeah, whatever. Okay. So, as we go through those things, and what do we do at the collegiate level in really fine high school programs? We react. We make that work. But with our younger students, we've got to find ways to reinforce that. And constantly. So we can again say, okay, here's what we're going to look at for the accent. What can we do to teach that and then apply it to music? So can we focus on that for a moment? Let's try that.
For this with the accent?
Yeah, let's try that accent. Because I like what you did with the accent, where you were with it, but did we test it before we put it in the music?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Right. So we're talking about at 23 with the accented notes, like I mentioned. These we want to put space between them. Can you guys give me one accented note? Let's just do it on a concrete B flat. Just one accented note. Let it ring a little bit. Can you make it a little longer? Like a quarter, like full value. Cool. Okay, can we do 2 accented notes now? So what does that mean if we have one right after? What do we have to do to make sure that it is accented in other space?
Separated, but a clean attack on both of them.
What do you mean by attack, Aiden? Can you explain that?
we have to come in with a little bit more power and decrescendo just a little bit.
I'm gonna simplify that even more. I think it just means like giving it some air and then tonguing again. So making sure you're like re-articulating that note with some space in between.
Really good, really good. Okay. So part of it with this age group as well is finding that balance of asking questions like we would do in some of the older groups and saying, okay, so what does accent mean? How do we do that? Think if we're working with a group that's, just learning the instrument, are they gonna really know how to do that? So I like your follow-up, you did really well. So let's think about it that way. That was really well done. So now let's get a precursor in front of that. Is there something else that we can do before we even play the note? Because again, hey, hello instrument, I'm just getting to know you, right? So what can we do to show that accent or to illustrate or demonstrate that before we even get to the instrument itself?
Okay.
Anything there you can think of?
Yeah. All right.
And you're doing great. You're doing great. It's good.
Pretend that thing didn't just happen. Still learning an accent. Okay. There's space in between an accent, between accents and notes. So let's just like set our instrument down for a second. Safely. Put it in this case. Nice. Okay. I want us all to just take a really nice deep breath in and go, dog. Can you all do that with me? Dog. Can you do it with your hands too, if you're able? Just, dog. Can you feel that weight? Dog. Ready? Dog. So when I'm ending my note, am I putting any consonant or any letter at the end of it, or am I just releasing it? When I say dog. It's just a release, right? I'm not going duck or dick. Like, I don't even mention earlier, like, playing it angrily. You could play dick very angrily, but this is just heavy, like a bell. Dog. You want to do that one more time? Dog. Great. Okay. Let's put that within. And let's just do our concert F on a dog. Just one note. Think about that weight. Think about a resonance. By resonance, I mean letter break. Dog. Yeah. A little bit longer. That's great. Can you almost try to make it fade out toward the end? I didn't hear much of a difference. Try it again. That was better. That was great. Okay, let's do two notes now. Two consonants. Yes, nice. Nice for me. Even more space in between. I'm gonna count for it. Even more space. Yeah, that was nice. Great. And the trumpets, I'm hearing a little you're gonna be able to fix that by just letting the air go. You don't necessarily have to like completely stop the air. You just have to put some space between it, but that motion should still be there. One more time, everybody. Great. Awesome. Okay. With that in mind, let's put that in context at 23 with Thunder Cloud.
Let's have a couple minutes left.
Cool. 23, everybody. Did you say something I couldn't? You were counting? Can you count quietly in your head or maybe like click your tongue or something? That really helps me. Thank you. All right, 23, everybody.
so this is great, right? This is our lesson plan, and sometimes it can be very formal that we have to turn in, and many times this is what we actually go into rehearsal with. So the other thing that we want to think about is, and not to keep low expectations for our students, but when we're working again with this young age, oftentimes, especially the transition going from our final years in college to our very first year working with really young kids, we plan on too much. Because right away, with what we even covered right there, we have a lot of things to focus on. A lot of notes to correct, right? Are we playing correct notes? No. And so this is the thing about what you're doing, it's just kind of more of a refocus. And so when we attack some of these things and we look at how we're going to address that, think of concepts. What concepts are we going to go on? So today we're going to focus on accents. Because let's be honest, the other part is when we've got young students that we're working with, we generally probably have maybe 30 minutes. We don't always get like 2 hours worth, right? So just some things to kind of think about as we go into that. But conducting-wise, we were talking about stopping it. You're in good shape there. Nothing to worry about. There's great clarity. It's going to be more about, our experience, which most of us have limited experience with working with this type of this age, especially at collegiate level. So kind of think about that and how we can address that. We get into some of the advanced level of the business. Great. Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah, go Kira!
What do you want to focus on?
In terms of what I do, what can I help you out? I think probably rehearsal techniques as well with this age.
Yep.
And then obviously any with
Great.
background.
Yeah.
Be great.
And so I'm going to add a different layer as well. Where are you in terms of introducing this piece? Are we just introducing it? Are we maybe halfway through before we get ready to have a quote unquote concert? Think about, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but what you have planned out.
Let's go with we're in we're pretty we're
In the middle?
Maybe
In the middle?
Yeah. So don't play perfect, but not concert ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Great.
Where are we starting?
we're gonna give it kind of a as much of a run as we can do and just see where we're at.
Okay.
All right.
Woo!
You don't
Okay.
even have a card.
This is not life. Hello. The band room chairs. Can you please sit down? I don't want you to fall and hurt someone else or yourself or your Unfortunately, there's not a trombone solo in this piece, but we can talk about solo pieces after class. Let's get everyone back in at measure 9, please. Everyone except them is rated up so far. Measure 9.
Oh! Mic drop.
Measure 9.
No.
amazing master plan. We're halfway into getting ready for the concert.
Yeah.
And you're obviously responding. You're using your ears because your faces, your eyes, are saying a lot about what you're hearing right now. So, can we maybe take a moment, and I know we want to get through. Yeah. That's all right. But take a moment of like, folks, it's really easy, isn't it, to get up here? Well, no, it's not. It's not, right? So, but it's really easy to get up here and be in your train of thought and be like, okay, I practiced this conducting life, and truly from the transition of finishing, you've got the degree in hand. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to get to teach and I'm going to make money. Right. But you get up here, and it's really easy to turn these off and focus on, this is my plan, right? I want to get through this. So then we can go back and we can address some things. And is that working right now? With even, really well-trained musicians on secondary, is this sounding like what this teacher sounds like? No. So how do we fix that?
Why don't we start with the melody from the beginning, and I'm going to assume that we talked about who has the melody.
Yeah.
Where.
Yeah.
So if you have the melody, please play it. I think you have the melody.
Can I pause you one more time?
Yep.
Let's go back one more step. Because does it sound? Do we know where the pitches are in each of our instruments? Yeah.
Not all the way. No.
Okay. So what would be a great way to do?
We'll start with everyone playing their starting note.
I love that idea. Yes. Yes.
So at the beginning, let's have everyone play their note. If you play on beat 2 of measure 1, please play and hold your note. So we're going to start there. I'm going to give you beat 1. We're going to play beat 2, and we're going to continue on melody only.
Did you need to tell them all that?
Probably not.
But the melody part, yeah.
Yeah. Melody part, yeah.
Go right in there.
Right. Try that one more time. Let me know where we are. Right on beat 2. Yeah, really good. Much better than it was.
Was it really good? For where we were?
Yes.
For where we were? Yes. Was there anyone that, is that all supposed to be unison?
No, not completely. Most of it, yes.
Okay.
But no, there's some thirds.
Okay.
Yeah, not completely.
Okay.
Just the
All
rhythm.
right. Yes. So again, just general concepts, right? Because I know we have a short amount of time with this stuff. But again, thinking about that first note was a game changer. That's the first time that, oh wow, that was really nice. And so think about some of those elements as we continue forward. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get everybody back in. At the beginning again. And there's a lot of things.
Well, there's an intentional.
There's a planted pitch.
Okay.
Planted air detection.
It's like a very big problem.
Okay.
Hopefully. It's exaggerated.
I hope so. Beginning everyone. Who plays on the? Raise your hand if you play on the downbeat. Oh no, we don't have any of those parts covered. Okay.
Yeah.
Beginning.
I'm waiting for one.
Let's everybody play that pitch again on the second beat of measure 1.
All right, I love it. Think again what Aiden did right there. This is not picking on Aiden, but what would be more clear? Again, we are novices in all of this, so you're assuming a lot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what would help them with their accuracy if we asked them to do that same thing?
Just playing the note.
What did you ask them to do? Or let me ask you, what did Aiden ask you all to do?
He wanted us to play the second note in B2. I don't know which measure.
Oh, I did not clarify that.
Measure, and then also, at this age, flutes, you're gonna play blah blah. Oboes, you're gonna play this. And if we've got some things, maybe obviously lessons of flutes, oboes.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, just to be even a little more specific, and that also allows you to check some things along the way, and obviously that pacing moving along as we go through there. So this, again, another element that will help reinforce the younger students that we're working with.
Okay.
Because otherwise, we're gonna get that, you know, even if we don't say the measure number, it's like, wait, where are we again? What?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Play the second beat where? It's much easier, like, A playing A and playing that. Oh, okay, great. Okay?
Alright. We're gonna play on B2 of measure 1. And bassoon, you have a D. Clarinet 1, C. Clarinet 2, you have an A. Saxophones, you either have an E or a G. Trumpets, you're not playing. And that's everybody.
Does that help?
Trombones, my bad. Trombones, you may have an E flat.
E flat.
Or so, oh. You have a G.
I do, thank
There you
you.
go. Alright, there you go.
So everyone's just gonna play on B2 measure 1. Alright, we're gonna go from the beginning, and everyone is playing from the beginning. Okay, never mind. Everyone from the beginning, yeah, please. We're gonna go on this time. Trombones, and can we check our pitches,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Measure 1, you have a G, and then an A, and then a B flat in measure 2.
Yep.
And then it goes up a whole step, and the same thing happens in measure 3.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Let's try that again. From the beginning, please. Everyone. Trombones,
You
what
guys
is
are so bad. Can you do it?
Trombones for everyone, actually. What is our dynamic marking in measure 7? Forte. Can everyone play what they have on the downbeat in measure 7, please? Forte. Thank you.
You're so out of tune.
Alright, measure 5, please. Everyone's in on measure 5. Thank you. Can we take a look at measure 17? And as we move from measure 19 through measure 21, everybody take a second to look through from 17 to 21. Take a look at your fingering, and if you have any questions, let me know about the fingering. So just take 15, 20 seconds, look through the fingering, finger through it, and make sure that we're feeling comfortable with it. 17, everybody. We have woodwinds play, brass and percussion go. That's our 8 notes. Woodwinds at 17. Alright, now switch. Woodwinds go. Brass, you're gonna play at 17. Louder, louder, louder. Brass. Yeah. Is Emma really the only one playing?
Yeah, we don't cut her till measure time. That's horrifying.
We're not gonna do that then. We're gonna start at 17, everybody. Everybody in at 17.
Oh, I got my solo!
Everybody in at 17. No.
Man, that solo's not bad, Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
Please don't call out other students.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
It's like 4 minutes.
Alright.
So Aiden, let's pause right there. How you feeling right now?
Overwhelmed.
So, and what's overwhelming about it?
The chaos of the room.
The chaos of the room.
Like where do I even begin kind of factor
Yep.
in my head right now.
Has nothing like the feel of what we have in our conducting classes, right?
Right.
Or any of our ensemble time, or maybe even other reading bands where we're focusing on other things, right? So, you know, is a little bit of this, can this be reality?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what if this all were happening? Some planted, some not. If this all were happening right there, where would you start? Are there musical issues right now?
Yes.
Or are there more other issues? Okay. And what would be the number one thing that's really making you feel overwhelmed right now?
The amount of disruption
Okay.
in between me saying things.
So what can you do to fix that?
I can try to keep them playing more
Mm-hmm.
and talk less, but then not as many things get addressed.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Um,
What's another way? If today's just really a bad day for their behavior. It's okay if you don't know.
I don't know.
Does anybody know?
That's what I don't
Yeah,
want to do.
that's in the office. That's in the office.
In terms of if Aiden's feeling overwhelmed right now, any of us would be if we're in this situation, and today's just really bad day classroom management wise, where do we start? What's the one thing we can start with to hopefully get order back in the room again?
They have a method book, right? Play something that they know, do a call and response. Say, let's just play it and hold it. Let's wait, take 5 minutes, practice on your own, and when I count down, let's all bring it back in and let's start again from the beginning, whatever.
Great way from the playing standpoint, for sure. Have you all talked about expectations in your classroom? Have you thought about expectations in your classroom and what you want? So hopefully, if this is our room, are we going to have 10 things that we have to have as part of our expectations? No, should not, right? 3 to 5 tops. And say, hey, here we are, class. And hopefully something, respect one another. or, you know, whatever your expectations will be, and just a reminder right there, okay, everybody, let's refocus, and let's make sure that we're ready to go. And again, I think going into the method book, yeah, that's a great way musically to do some things to make sure we get back in the mix, but we really need to, again, the classroom management thing is gonna be something we all deal with. And if you haven't had that opportunity, even when you student teach, it's not gonna be the reality, because you're supervising teachers typically there. So you're doing a lot of really great things. You're conducting, again, very similar. There's a lot of great things here. It's all of these outside things that we have to focus and prepare for. And realize, again, as we said last time, we almost have to prepare smaller chunks.
Yeah.
Because this is not wind symphony, wind orchestra, you know, Hinesley, campus, even university band, right? These are things right here to where that attention span is going to be a little bit different. And what are we doing to stay engaging? So I like that you brought up pacing. So I know I wish we could continue on, but just something mentally to focus on. And obviously we see a theme here for everyone that this is normal. This is normal that we don't have these experiences after we finish our undergrad and we get into this mix and we're like, oh my gosh, this is just insane. And if you don't have a plan, it's going to be overwhelming. It's not going to be fun for you, and it's not going to be fun for them. So,
Thank you, great.
Maybe we could cut it. Oh, have I hit it? Katie, have I hit it?
Wait, excuse me, Katie.
Ryman? Ryman has? Oh my god!
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Katie, I also require one.
Good afternoon, guys. How's everybody doing today? Show of thumbs, show of hands. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, hopefully we can get a little bit better today. Ryan, do you have a question? Is that a hand?
I don't have a water glass.
I'm sorry. I bet you can make it through to the end of this. Okay.
Genuine question.
A water glass?
It says in my card that you get water glass.
Okay.
Wait, what was that when you said you're always ready for a concert?
I didn't have the water glass there.
Okay.
I said I'm always ready for a performance. That's a very
Different.
That's a different statement.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of things about this piece before we get started. It's very artsy. This was a submission into a competition, and it was, it won the competition. It's a really cool piece. But because we're a little, the other half of our 6th grade is in a different period, we're dealing with just a little bit of an understaff. So we're just going to kind of skip through some of this. Hey, Kira, can I help you? Kira? What?
That's
Real!
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
They're students!
I know.
We're all students today.
God.
You know what?
Oh.
Do you know mine?
I asked you to do something. No, I know. Wait, like after or like?
Yes! Let's go.
Okay. So everybody go ahead. We're gonna take a look at letter C. So what's gonna kind of happen is we're gonna go through and what is everybody's sheet?
There's no time signature.
Okay.
Which I don't know what time signature is.
That's okay. So as we're looking through all of this, I'm just gonna kind of cue each person in at letter C, and you're just gonna go ahead and play, at your own tempo. We're gonna go through the rhythm.
At our own tempo.
At your own tempo. Yeah.
That's dangerous.
You can play it however I want.
At your own speed, at your own pace.
Yeah, no, that's your mind solo.
So everybody, go ahead and go to playing position for me.
I gotta figure out what I'm playing.
Carmela, you're gonna be awesome in marching band. I cannot.
Oh my god,
I love that.
thank you so much. I've never been in marching band before.
I'm shocked. Yeah, great eyes, great eyes. Moving on, letter D. Yeah, and then Anna, do you have all the percussion part stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you want me to like? I was gonna do bass drum, but
Let's have you on. Do you have a stick to do block?
I like haven't like learned how to do that.
You just hit it.
You just
Oh,
did it.
block. Oh, yeah.
Wow, who is your teacher? Okay, yeah.
I don't have. Wait.
Do you have the block part with you? Hey, while we're looking around for that, can we everybody write a letter D? Can you just play and hold that note at a nice mezzo forte?
Yeah.
Play with me.
That's foolish too.
Yeah.
That was meant to be funny.
Yeah, Yanni, that's awesome. Maybe just a little bit less. I love that. I love the energy, man. That's awesome. All right, everybody
That's
sing
quiet
sing
down.
them. Watch me for dynamics. Yeah, really cool. Really cool. Anna, how we doing back there? We finding that percussion part?
I don't know. I'm feeling a little tired. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't get much sleep last night. Are you sure I can't take a nap?
No, I mean, I think the best, what always makes me feel energized is music, right? Yeah! So how about, let's put you on the bass drum part with the Glock, like the bass drum instrument with the glockenspiel part. I know it's a little funky, but that's how we're gonna roll for today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Okay, and then everybody, we're gonna go ahead and skip. Let's do 4 measures before letter E, so we can give Anna a little bit of bass drum time, and then we'll get into it. Okay. 4 measures. Yeah. Oh my God. Jeez. Yeah. That's awesome. You know, music education is such a fun field.
I love it. I'd like to be band like you.
I think you should have higher aspirations for yourself. You know, let's go ahead and I'd be happy to help you do stuff after
Okay.
that. So right now, I want to focus on trombone.
Well, I'm gonna stay there, so.
You're resting there? Well, you know what? I think you can go through some slide positions on your own.
You're right. That's probably gonna
Okay. Slide 2. I know you know that one.
I do not.
Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Trumpets, you ready? Ready? That's all right. We're not going to worry about that. No. Okay. Ready? Remember, once I cut off, we want to be looking up at me so that we're all cutting off together and staying in time. Can I hear if you are a flute, an oboe, or a trumpet? If you're one of those 3 people, I want you guys to play with me. And if you are an alto saxophone, a tenor saxophone, French horn, or a low brass, follow along with your part because they're playing the same thing you guys played just 2 measures earlier. So this is right at letter E. You guys have the same thing they do, just 2 measures after. Alright, so one of those voices. This is that sound? Oh, that's orchestra
Is that a
kids.
tornado?
No, no, that's
It's
just
a
orchestra
shelter.
kids. That's just practicing. That's okay. So flutes, oboes, and trumpets. Yeah. Can we go ahead and play just those first three notes? Keep going. Okay, cool. Let's try one more time in tempo. Don't worry about what the orchestra kids are doing, guys. It's okay. It's okay. Flutes, oboes, and trumpets. Yeah, cool. So low brass and saxophones, you guys were listening, right? 'Cause
Yes.
That's the same thing. So now, can I hear you guys 2 measures after E?
Yeah.
Low brass, French horns, and saxophones.
Yes.
Can we have everybody play that together? So if you were that first group, then you guys are gonna play right at letter E. And if you were the group that just played some saxophones and low brass, if you guys were the ones that just played, right? You're gonna start 2 measures after letter E.
Okay.
Okay? All good? Okay. I can see that. We're gonna all start in the same place. So it's the same rhythm. So you guys are gonna start 2 measures after E. Does that make sense? 2 measures after E. Okay. Let's try it one more time. Nice. All right. Ready? You started 2 measures after E.
Okay, but we're starting at E or 2 measures after E as a group.
So as a group, you're starting in some different places. We all have the same thing. Just
What were we
different
just
notes.
doing?
Like
Where did you just want us to start?
I want trombones. I want you guys to start 2 measures after.
Okay, so we start. So you started everybody at E. This is a genuine question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was lost. Okay.
No, that's
thank
okay.
you.
That's okay.
Everybody.
Mr. Rivera, the sound is really distracting. You know what it is?
I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is?
Can you find the
idea.
source?
Find it, please. I can't.
I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna keep singing.
Like actually, it's like a tune or something. Alright. Can we look around? Can we look around? Does anyone see a tune line around? Is it? It's the music rehearsal time.
I don't think it's that way. I'm just saying. I think it's probably
Think it's
that
that way?
way.
Oh my goodness.
Probably not back by the percussion.
I'm gonna take my phone, are you, teacher?
Oh yeah, that was getting so annoying.
Good job.
Very cool.
That legit happened to me once.
I'm glad you have it.
Yeah,
Alright, now
Except they all had iPads, so there were 10 of them.
I believe it.
everybody at rehearsal letter E as written.
Okay.
So Anna, you're back in, along with the rest of our percussionists, and everyone back as written. Hey, low voices, are you ready?
Yes.
Ready? Yeah, and remember, we always want to be watching up here so that if I cut off, then we get right into stuff. Yeah, so really nice job. It's definitely making some improvements. Can I hear just the woodwinds at letter E? So first row.
I haven't played it all.
You haven't played it all on this piece yet? Well, you know what? How about you guys?
Instruments upside down.
How about you guys? I'm gonna pull out this magic
Hey, what
card that I
grade?
have for you guys, and you're gonna double with the flutes and oboes.
Brian, you can try.
The
You
flutes
want to
and
play
oboes.
double?
Yeah.
But
Well, I
then
guess you can.
Brian.
Wait, what?
why
How are you feeling?
It's
You
been a
getting
day.
You getting annoyed yet?
They're lovable kids.
You've had some really great responses. Really great responses. So this last section right here, how many times have you asked them now in terms of once you give that release and they've kept going, how many times have you asked them? And very well done. You kept your cool. How many times have you done that now? At least three. At least three. Okay? And not anything wrong with that. So is there anything else, nothing musical really, right? How come they're not watching you?
They're distracted.
Could be distracted. Could be right? So that could be just some really simple guidance and just, okay, remember everybody, it doesn't have to be all the time, it's making some, general eye contact here and there. So I think that part's really good. So this last part right here, we started to let questions continue to go, and you continue to entertain those. How could that end up going in rehearsal if you continue to have a response for everything? Right? It may start to snowball right there, and now we're having conversations with everybody as opposed to, okay, get that control back once again and say, okay, here's where we're starting. Ready? Set? Boom. Okay? So we just did that.
Boom.
Where are we starting?
Yeah. So we're gonna start. That's a fantastic question. We're gonna start right at letter E, as written. Can I hear just the front row?
Hey, you're up.
I am now.
All right. So actually, let's everybody flip ahead. We're gonna start at letter G.
That's the same thing.
Get some more people going.
A letter D?
Letter G.
G for girls. I'd be women.
All right. All set? All ready?
Yes.
Right at letter G. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. In your music, this is a genuine question. Do you guys have anything like group 1 or group 2?
Yes, great.
You do? Okay. Raise your hand if you're group 1. Alright. Front row, check out. Look at our friends back there who are also group 1. Okay, cool. Put your hands down. Group 2. Fine. Group 3. Oh no. Group 4. Okay. Very cool. They must be in the other period. That's fine. Can I hear just group 1?
Okay.
Just group 1, right at letter G. And actually, sorry, relax. So just like we had a little bit earlier in the piece, everyone's playing the same thing over and over again. Do we know what that's called when we do that, like musically?
B.
No, but it's called around. It's close to Steve, but it's what we call around, like row, row, row your boat. That same kind of idea. If you guys did that in Gen Music a few years ago. But so we're all going to be playing the same thing. So just be listening.
Isn't music named Jen?
Jen.
Jen? Oh, she's a friend. That's okay. So just be listening. It's going to be the same part moving forward. So group 1, right at letter G.
Jen.
Yeah, can I hear just the trumpets doing it? Okay.
You're missing one of our
Yeah.
trumpets.
Can I hear just the front row now? So as we're listening to them, that rhythm, dun, 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 dun. I'm sorry. Yeah. Group 1, just the woodwinds at G.
Yeah, like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Check those notes. I think the notes and rhythms.
No, I'm pretty sure I all my notes, Mr. Mike.
Okay. So, Mr. Mike, so right there, again, take lead in your teaching as opposed to, again, what you heard right there, that's not correct, right? So instead of saying, hey, check your notes right there, especially this age, say, okay, look at that once again and try that once again, or, you know, actually have them clap that rhythm or something along those lines to reinforce that. Okay? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do it.
Can we have everybody check out with your eyes as we're looking where your entrance starts? So right at letter G. So if you're group 1, you're starting in measure 1. If you're group 2, you're starting in measure 2 of,
G is in
of C.
gangster.
And if you're group 3, you're starting in measure 3. So we're just gonna everyone go ahead and put your instruments down on the ground so we're safe. Yep. I think we're running out of time as well. Okay. We're just gonna stop our rhythm when we play at G. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Really awesome. Now can we try everybody playing where you play like as written at G? Okay, can we have everybody, just like we did earlier in class, can we have everyone play where you play together? Does that make sense? No. Okay. So everyone. Well.
Can we play at the beginning?
Oh, your parents probably, yeah. I'm gonna call the clock on this. I'm gonna call the clock.
Yeah. So again, like I said, some really good classroom management things at the very beginning to keep it going. So here at the end, pacing once again, right? The more that we open up the windows of time for this, it is going to snowball. Again, depending on the age and a variety of things right there. This piece, there's some confusing things right there, right? So, and it's not really from, and I know what you're trying to do, but it's just how we present it to them. And so sometimes it's going to be, okay, flutes, oboes, you're going to be right at G. Bassoon, clarinet, we want you to start one measure after G. Okay? And just saying, okay, so we're all playing that together, ready, and give it a whirl, and go from there. It's just how we say that to make sure that we're learning that. Okay? That's a really good one. That's great.
Telling me, okay, this is a genuine note to you all because Nathan dropped out earlier today, so I stepped in an hour ago. I have not looked at his score before, so please be nice to me. Oh my God, okay. Give me a minute to look through this, please.
By the way, it might help a little bit if you have a sheet, do what's on the sheet, but if you don't have a sheet, just be normal.
Thanks, that'd be really appreciated because I do want to get somewhat of a shot at this. Okay. Yeah. Or as fast as possible. Oh, it's over for you guys. It's over for you guys. I'm going as fast as possible. It says or as fast as possible.
I'm pretty sure it says lightly quarterback.
I'm pretty sure it says like 116 to 144 or as fast as possible. Yeah, check it out. Okay. Sure. Okay. I'm almost done looking through this. Sorry. have the first movement, or do you have the other movement?
We have 1 and 2. I've been doing 1 and 2.
Let's do 2. Let's do movement 2.
Left, right, left, right.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking some body percussion's gonna be great for everybody. Okay. All right, students, esteemed musicians. Let's bring our esteemed. Ready?
No.
Okay, good. You're gonna twist it around. Oh, it's just your mouthpiece. Can you just turn your mouthpiece around? Here, twist it back to how you had it. Yeah, and then have that turn. Oh, it's okay. I'm teaching you right now. Can you go ahead and do that too, Katie? Keep twisting it. You want your fingers to be in line with that. Yeah, it looks way better. If you have the logos, the Yamaha logo should be in line with each other. Oh, yeah. That looks great. Okay, let's try that again. Hey everybody, let's bring it back in. Can I get more out of the foot stomps? Left, right, nice and big. No, we're doing alternating, not together. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's great. Okay, which movement are we doing? 2. Movement 2. Jingle bell. That's okay. Here we go. Ready?
wrong notes.
some wrong notes.
Yeah.
So also, and this goes for everyone, and again, depending on where we are in the rehearsal cycle, quote unquote, would we ever play a segment that long with these younger students when that many things took place? And I realize this is, kind of all hypothetical and we want to get through as much,
Yeah.
but for experience to play, but also in that situation. So now, let's think, we're really in the classroom right now. Where are you going to go back to try and fix? Where do things really, because are we going to try and fix every single wrong note? No. So where was the biggest cluster of wrong notes in that whole segment that you played?
16 sounded really nice, and then going into 24, when we started adding in more people, definitely started to kind of go awry.
Yeah.
So can we all start at 24? Yes? Thanks. Thanks for the fun. Here we go.
So let's even, and I know you're being thrown into this. Was there any particular part that you saw in the score, or anything that you heard with your ears that particularly went awry?
Allison did a really nice job up on top on the melody line.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. Allison.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly.
Okay,
I was
so in this situation, if we don't know, then continue like you were.
Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and start at 24. And we're going to be passing around some eighth notes, so make sure that you're listening. Here we go. Thank you.
So, did you hear something that time?
I heard something. Don't
Uh-huh.
know what it was, but
Okay.
I heard something.
So, again, this kind of gets back to what we talked about earlier, right? We get up here, we start conducting, and I know your situation, so thank you again for doing this. But we turn these off because we're worried about, oh my gosh, managing all of this. So, let's do it once again. Open these up and listen to what you hear of what you need to fix. What's the priority?
Starting at 24 again, just 4 bars. Thanks, Ryan. Saxophones, I think something went wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
That's alright, that's alright. Was it a...
No, I just fumbled the hearing.
Okay, alright, let's try it again for the saxophones. Saxophones, can I just hear you guys at the beginning, those first 4 bars? Here we go. Great, there you go. So double check that.
My D&C was.
Yes, that would be really great. Can we do it one more time?
So, let's even get even more specific. So we just pinpointed it, and it's always great too when our students say, yeah, I missed my D&C, right?
Yeah.
So, what can we do to help?
Hey, stop talking across the classroom. Thank you.
Good.
I can show them the fingerings. I know them, but
That's okay. Let's not even, you don't even have to worry about that. What can we do to single that out? Play your saxes, play your B, then saxes, play your C.
Okay, saxes, your B, please. Great, now go to your C. Great. Okay, you guys have the fingerings, so just remember those when they come back up. Let's go ahead and do that again, just saxes those first 4.
There you go.
Let's get a better start, let's try it again. Great, make sure that we're looking up a little bit because we're getting a little bit behind, but your notes were there. So make sure you're looking up here so you can get tempo. Okay, great. Let's have everybody go back to 24. Let's take those
I'm
4
going to
bars.
hold you to that one. Are you happy with that?
No,
So what did you just reinforce if we?
bad habits.
Yeah. Yep.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again, saxophone.
So again, there's this moment in the rehearsal, and we've all been part of this, to where somebody pushes, and it's like there's a point of no return where it's like, oh my gosh, now the rehearsal's so far out of whack that we can't gain this back again. So know where that, again, kind of that pressure point is. I don't think we're there yet, right? We've had success. You pinpointed it. It sounded better. And putting it in that context, it was better than before, but not there yet. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's play it again. You learn your B and your C. Don't freak out when those come up. And then make sure that we're keeping our music stand so you can see me. So Rachel, you might want to raise yours up just a little bit. Yeah, that looks better. That looks better. Can you still see me and your music? Great. All right, let's try it again. Better. You could still be looking a little bit more here. I'm gonna give you the tempo here and see if that helps. Ready? 1, 2, and. Great. Now do it with me conducting. Beautiful. So much better.
So, I mean, is this rocket science?
No.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah.
And so again, this is making that shift. Making the shift of what we experience in our ensembles here at the collegiate level, and there's a lot that from that conducting perspective, if you're up here, it's like, we know that you're gonna take care of some of these things. And you know you're gonna take care of these things until we get to the next rehearsal. And then if it's not good, then it's like, okay, let's go ahead and check it out right there. But again, we're dealing with this, we're trying to reinforce those really great habits. And again, stats are everything, right? But for something to become a habit, you oftentimes have to be 2 to 3 times of doing that, and then it locks it in, and then that probably is going to be reinforced later on. So that sequencing is great. Good.
Thank you. Okay, let's get everybody back in at 24, and we'll just take those 4 bars, and then we can start moving on from there.
Okay. Do they need to know all that? No. Probably just a piece of it, right?
Probably just 4 bars at 24.
There you go. Yeah.
Instrument up. Instrument up, Colonel. The player trumpet up. Yeah, that looks great. Here we go. Great. Thank you. I saw that we had some people drop out from laughing. That's okay. We'll get you the next time. Does your snare drum part say to have the snare drum off?
Yes.
Okay, could you play just a little bit louder? I'm losing you a little bit.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Anna. Okay, let's try it again. Anna, play a little bit louder. Great. That sounded a lot better. Thanks for fixing that. Okay, let's go ahead and take the next 4 bars. Yeah, take a second if you need to. Yes, Carmela?
I don't recognize a rhythm in my part.
Which rhythm do you not recognize? We don't use that kind of language in this classroom. Mr. Romero, I'm going to have to ask you to refrain from using that language. Thank you.
Nice.
It has like a dot, and then the next one has a little line coming out of it.
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So, pretty much all of us have this unison rhythm here at, where is this? I can't count. At A2 is what I have. So, the rhythm there is 1, 2, and, which we've seen before. And then on the 3rd beat, this is what we call the dotted 8th note. So, it's going to hold over just a little bit longer. We know 16th notes, we've learned 16th notes before. So, it's going to be like an 8th note, but there's going to be an extra 16th note. It's going to be counted 1 E and then you're going to put it on the up.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
I'd love to hear some verbal yeses from
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
And if we had something behind us that we could actually,
Yeah, I
we
would
would
get
be,
that.
yeah, we could reinforce that, and again, not now, obviously, but that would be great, so we're just not, you picked it up now. Good.
Hey, Yanni. You look really comfortable.
Oh my
but
god,
that's
I
not,
still am.
Yeah, but that's not how we play trombone, unfortunately. So if you could scoot your chair back and then your other chair, yeah, you don't need 2 chairs to play trombone. That's okay. You can put your feet on the ground. They can go there. That'd actually be a better place for them. Yeah, and then what did you just
Or trombone.
Trombone meant to a lot. Okay.
Trombone. Wait, why is it trombone?
So yeah, we're not gonna cross our feet while we're playing. We're gonna keep our feet, feet flat on the floor. We're sitting towards the front of our chair, just like everybody else in the ensemble. Yeah.
Yeah, looks great, Yanni. Thanks for fixing that. Okay, let's try the next 4 bars, the one that we just talked about with the dotted eighth note. And here we go. We just talked about it, so we should be able to play this dotted eighth rhythm. Here we go. Ready? Great. Hey, that dotted eighth rhythm sounded really good. You guys were able to pick up on that really quickly, so thanks for doing that. Now, we take, hey, clarinets, why are we putting our clarinets down? Oh, well, you gotta hold it when you're taking a break. You know, an easy way, if you don't want to hold it, is you can put your clarinet on your lap like this. Oh, you probably don't want to do that. I think that this would be better for you, so that you don't have to keep picking up your instrument every time we go to play. Can you guys try that for me if you don't want to hold it? No, it's okay. You can put it in your lap. Mike, am I gonna have to ask you to go to the principal's office? You've been a real problem. Okay.
I love Fred.
All right. Bring it back in, everybody. Let's try 8 bars at 24. So we're gonna stop at the 3/4. Here we go. Yeah, that sounded a lot better, Hannah. I think that there was a little bit of a missed note in there. Did you play an E natural? That's what you should have, is an E natural there.
I did play it.
Oh yeah? Okay. All right. It was just very loud and excited, so maybe you fit in with the rest of the texture. Okay, guys, that was really fantastic. I think that was really nice. Kaz, how much time do I have?
Like 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Yeah, hey, you know what? Let's go up to the 3/4. Let's just try going up to the 3/4 now that we fixed some things in there. Remember that stomping that we talked about earlier? We're gonna bring that back in. We're gonna start with the stomping, okay? All right, we're not gonna abuse each other with our instruments. So, okay. All right, so put your instruments in your laps or ready to play. Either one, just make sure you can get them up in time for you to play. Okay? Hey, let's not cross our feet because we're gonna need them to play. Yeah, you're gonna play with your feet, so you're gonna need to. Yeah, thank you.
I don't have that in my part though.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, you guys have jingle bells. So I apologize. Hey, that's my bad. That's on me. We don't have jingle bells for you today. So can you guys just sit patiently and wait to play your clarinets? Thank you. That'd be really appreciated. Okay, here we go. Everybody at the beginning. Here we go. Great, that was wonderful. There were a lot of good things in there. Saxophones, we still missed that C and D. We missed that in there. But that's okay. We'll get it next time.
Yeah. Nicely done. Good classical management as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that sequencing, you know, for everyone, that's a really great example of just how to address some things. Just to pinpoint that, and again, it's more of that mental shift from what we've done here at this level, and then teaching those younger students to make sure that we reinforce that. Yeah. Great. Woo! Good job, everyone. What secondaries?
Yeah, Do you like my secondary?
No, Carmela just has to. Hey, I didn't see you playing a lot back there, so yeah, she wasn't.
Yeah, she was smiling and waiting.
Carmela, I thought you were Harry the second concern. I was purposely playing bad.
Oh,
okay?
sure.
To be fair, she plays that as much as she doesn't.
Oh! Alright.
I'm gonna say it didn't sound any different than it does in conducting, so.
Alright, I'll get up there right now. Okay, now we've got like ask you anything.
Yeah.
Y'all could put the music in the folders and keep the folders on the thing after. Jeremy, did you get any work done? Like, were you able to focus? Oh, yeah.
I could imagine a student that I had for every student.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so true. I mean, and even those of you that didn't have the planted errors and things like that, I mean, there are those points where it just does get out of control if we don't have a plan in place. And so that's where you kind of need to think a little bit about your discipline plan. I always use like yellow, red, and green cards, and be like, yellow would be the warning. So yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to do that.
Yeah, like kind of going off of that, like obviously this is exaggerated a little bit, but like how exaggerated was it? Like was it like the actions were pretty on par, but maybe not all at once? Or like is that like what happened? Like man,
I mean, I really think any of these things that truly took place today, I've all had those things, in the 3 elementary schools that I taught in. Sure. I've had somebody standing on a chair before, not because they wanted a solo though, usually for some other reason. So yeah, I think there's people laying on the, if we don't pay attention to our percussion friends, that's really easy to get bored back there because a lot of times, and not trying to stereotype our percussion friends by any means, but a lot of them go into it. There's not an expectation or a standard of, there's some schools that will say, well, you have to take piano lessons. I feel that I understand why, but sometimes there's some access issues with that. Everyone can't. My parents didn't have enough money to do piano lessons, so I'm like, no, you can't do this. Sometimes people are on percussion and they join percussion because they want to play the drums. So that's what they think it's going to be, right? And then they realize there's all this other stuff. So it depends on what your approach is. Are you going to start with bells and work through that so they're actually reading music before we get into some of the percussive elements? And there's a variety of approaches out there, and each of them work. I think it's just having a plan. But from the exaggerated side of things, I think more than anything is we all have a little more control of when to kind of turn that off. And there's some folks in our teaching that's not always the case.
So like the thing that Emma said was that we don't do that. That was my favorite thing that Emma said.
Thanks, Jeremy.
that was gonna be my follow-up. Like, in those situations where like it just will not stop, and it's like just those days or whatever. Like, how do you?
It goes back to the culture and atmosphere that you create in your room, and that starts day one. So, it's really kind of unfair to talk about some of those classroom management things with each of you and say, hey, you need to do this when we haven't had a chance to set that culture. So part of that is day one, before we even start talking about how we put our instruments together. I mean, it's all building blocks that we put into this. And there are times that this goes into the makeup of your room. Are you going to have all of these instruments in your beginning instrumental class? And some of you, that's the only way that you'll be able to do it. Some of you, you'll be maybe able to say, all right, we're going to have clarinets this hour, and we're going to do saxophones this hour. I mean, that's ideal, right? And you may get to bring everybody together on one of the days of the week. It just depends how your school is structured. When I first, my second job in the public schools, and I shared with some of you, I taught in 5 buildings every day. And 3 elementary schools split between 2 towns, middle school, and then high school. And the 3 elementary schools, we did not have time to split into, again, flutes at this time, clarinets this time. It's everybody. So imagine, and again, this is my first year there, and I changed it very quickly that next year. I'm like, we cannot operate this way. So then we had pull-out sectionals.
So we said, okay, this is where we're gonna learn how to play the notes and the fingerings and things like this. And then when we put the group together, then we can actually, let's make some music and so forth. But a lot of that goes back to, what does that structure look like? What are those expectations? What are those, again, kind of rules / expectations? And we can't have a lot of them. When you look at elementary schools, if any of you have been in elementary schools lately, there's like 3 or 4 things that people really focus on. And if we get into 7 to 10, people are going to remember that. And so it has a lot to do with our life skills. So when you walk in the room, I always took my students, hey, this is how you're going to walk in the room. We actually practiced it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that sets the routine. And once you get that set and that expectation, then they just do it and they come in. And then they go get their instrument, wherever it is, how to put that together. And you have to go step by step. So oftentimes, like the very first day, isn't this exciting? We get to play our instruments. No, we're going through those things and again, I'm talking beginning, the very first time that we're introducing the instrument. And sometimes it can be, depending on how often you see them, that you get to that second day, and now we're probably opening up the instrument and talking about how to piece those together. A lot of that depends on how your class is structured. If you can do that within kind of pull-out sectionals, if you're able to work that in your elementary school or junior high / middle school, wherever you start that, that's great too. You just have to coordinate that with the classroom teachers and what class are they getting pulled out of. There's some things there as well. Or is it up against choir or up against orchestra? And people have to make that choice. So the master schedule that you inherit, like you need to become best friends with your guidance counselors and say, okay, do we have any liberty here to do things? And then with those classroom teachers. I made sure that I knew those classroom teachers so you could develop that relationship. And then when you may have that opportunity to pull them out to work on those things, there's an understanding of why and the importance of it. What else? Anything at all?
How did you manage your time between because there's so many things that go into teaching. There's like the lesson planning, there's the actual teaching, and then there's the administrative side of things, and then your family and things like that. Like, how were you able to do that out when you were in the public schools?
Yeah, well, I kind of got into this whole thing, and when I did, relationships were not part of the personal life at all. I kind of was at the point where I was like, I'm never gonna get married. And it's kind of one of those things like, I don't know. I loved what I did, and if a relationship happened to come out of something, then great. But that really wasn't the focus. I don't know. I had a really, this is probably too much information, but it's just life, right? I was in a relationship in college, and there ended up having to be a restraining order because this individual was waiting outside my apartment with a handgun, and this was when I was drum major of the marching band at Florida, and so my last year there, I actually had a police escort that was with me, and so that's probably why it kind of messed up the whole relationship thing. Because I was like, I'm fine. It's just it was. Right. And so in those beginning jobs, part of that in terms of the lesson plans, right? I know we talk about lesson plans in our music ed courses and what that needs to be in terms of the formality of that. I think so much of that depends on your administrator. Most of my administrators at that time, they said, we just want you to give kind of a general synopsis of what are the concepts that you're going to cover over this semester, which I love. And I said, week 1, week 2, and so forth. And it's kind of like a curriculum map more than lesson plans. I did not have to submit lesson plans each week or each day. And I hope that for all of you. There's a lot of things that we automatically are going to create our own lesson plan for our own class of what we want to teach. But that can be oftentimes very different than putting a formal lesson plan together that we have to submit to an administrator. So thankfully, I didn't have to focus a lot on that, checking that box for the administration. And I did it during the summer, submitted it, and kind of once you have it done, I went back and tweaked it. Like if week 2, I had too many concepts there, then I adjusted that for the future. And by the time you got through a couple years, you had your curriculum map taken care of. The preparation, and many of you have heard me say this before, and this is the scary part, I feel, because I felt like during my undergrad time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I cannot get everything done that I need to in the undergrad. There's so many classes, there's so many rehearsals, there's so many expectations to practice more, because practicing, 2 to 3 hours a day wasn't enough as it was. And like that was already happening at ODAR 30 in the morning just to make that work. So what is really interesting is when you graduate from here, you're not going to have any more time to focus on yourself. So this is your time to focus on what's important for each of you, whether it be score study, conducting, your musicianship on your instrument, or your secondary instruments as you work through that. What you're doing here is like absolutely fantastic. The fact that you have these opportunities to do this and to play secondaries, that's something that, regardless how good any method class is, and this is not, a jab at anybody teaching here, but you could have your professors teaching you this. You could have, some of the leading experts in music education teaching you these things, but there's nothing like the experience of playing the instrument in a setting like this, or, even our campus university bands. If you haven't played a secondary and kind of even more of a formal setting for like those campus university bands, I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. And for all you wind players, if you've not done anything percussion-wise other than percussion methods, you need to get back there and play percussion. One of the most enlightening moments of my life was when I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play percussion in one of the concert ensembles, when I was actually teaching at the college level. And one of my grad students and colleagues, when they were conducting those pieces, I went back to the percussion section and played. And you find out real quick why percussionists have that stereotype in terms of, well, they just always get in trouble back there. Well, I was getting into trouble quite a bit as well because I wanted to talk, and there's a lot of time. And sometimes the percussion parts aren't that challenging. So this is where, when you get to this point, and I'm going to answer your question still, I'm coming back to it, I promise. But if you have the opportunity, especially at the high school level, to have a percussion ensemble class or a percussion class, like you need to do that in a heartbeat. And what that meant for me is I pulled my percussionists out of my concert ensembles during the curricular day. And you may be thinking, well, what about concerts? Well, we pulled them in two or three rehearsals with the full ensemble before we got to that concert, or before we went to festival or contest, whatever the case may be. Did we work on some of those things in the percussion class? Yes. Was it the focus? No. Rudiments, scales, percussion ensemble, technique, all those things. But I'm not a percussion specialist. Well, I wasn't either. But you know what? You learn really quick. And then you take them so far, and then hopefully you build your program to build some great resources, and maybe there's someone that you can pull in for maybe once a week that's a percussionist, and they can say, okay, yeah, this is really great right here, but let's take them to this next level. So, some items there to continue to further that development here at the undergrad. I know the last thing you're thinking is like, well, I can't add any more to my schedule. It's where we need to prioritize some things. What do you want to do? Do you want to be the traditional band director, choir director, orchestra director, general music? Or do you want to do, some of the ands in addition to that? There's a lot of options out there, which is really great. But I think the bigger thing right now is, especially for those of you that, this is a very, very stereotypical comment for just the state of music in the state of Illinois. If we are looking at something that's a little bit beyond those non-traditional tracks to teaching music, there's not a lot of jobs out there to just focus on electronic music and so forth. I'm a big proponent. I think it's great. But part of this degree that you're getting is to get a job, right? If you don't have any jazz experience and you're going to go, become a traditional band director, you're going to have a jazz band. So what are you doing to, again, get that information? the very first thing that a lot of you will do could be potentially a marching band, high school-wide as well. So those are things just, again, what do you specifically need to get there? That's where you need to be looking at things right now. We get to our senior year, we know it's too late. Are you going to learn those things in your master's degree? No, you're not. That's not what that master's degree is. And when we look at the different tracks of music ed, conducting, and things like that, there's great things that we cover in that graduate program, but it's not really along those lines of developing yourself. That focus is a little bit different from that music educational side. The balance of things, the family, circling back to that, I didn't get married till I was like a little after 30, and then kids came later. So a lot of things that I was doing already, I was beyond my public school teaching experience. I had started grad school here at that time. And then my plan was to go back and teach in the public schools, and that changed really quickly. And so that balance of life has changed significantly. I'll be honest with you, and I know you're going to hear tons of people telling you all kinds of things. I don't believe that there is anything, there is no such thing as balance. It's just impossible. I mean, think about your lives right now. Is your life balanced like you want it to be? And how many of you, does that drive you absolutely just bad? Like, I think about that a lot, and I'm like, there's so many things that I want to be doing right now, but sometimes this job or family, for instance, my kids had parent-teacher conferences tonight. I've been with our director of bands candidate from 9 o'clock this morning until 2 o'clock this afternoon. I had some of our search committee members that wanted to meet after that to discuss how do you feel about these candidates. We're leaving for Ireland in less than 2 days. There is no such thing as balance. I have a committee meeting for the director of band search tomorrow from 8:30 to 10:30. So, all of those things, regardless of what level you're teaching, you're going to have those things. So it's just a matter of where's the line in the sand. So I had to, once my kids got a little older and they realized I wasn't there, there's one thing from your spouse, partner, significant other, that when they put guilt on you, it's one thing, but if you have kids and they're like, well, are you coming home tonight? Oh, gosh. That just is crushing. So, I used to be in the office 6 o'clock every morning because that's when I got work done here before I went up Scott here, and then I didn't get work done anymore. I can't do that anymore, especially in the fall. I would never see my kids. So I wake up very early in the morning, regardless, and I empty the dishwasher. I make breakfast every morning for my kids, and we have breakfast together, and then get ready. They hop in the car. I take them to school every morning. So balance, no such thing. It's what's important to you, and I've made that more of a priority. That's a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good answer.
But I just think it is really easy in this profession, and I sure hope you don't feel this way. I hope this continues to change. It's really in this profession, regardless of what path that you go, to want to be accepted by the profession, to be, boy, I wish I could be in that circle, or I wish I could know that person, or I should do this so I can hopefully get to this point. You got to be you. You've got to be you. And, there's a lot of people that think, well, if I can teach at this school, then I'm going to be great. You're going to be great wherever you go. You can build your quote-unquote empire of whatever you want that to be. If you want to be a great jazz program, choral program, orchestral, genre music, electronic music, band, whatever. You can build an empire wherever you want to be. It could be in quote-unquote Podunk, USA. And I've taught in schools like that. And we've had some amazing adventures. It could be in a very different setting, and it could be really miserable because you're maintaining a program that someone else built, and you're no longer that person, and they're like, well, geez, you're not so-and-so. How come we're not doing these things anymore? Or what's unique about this? So don't get too engulfed or enwrapped in what others think. Stay focused on who you are. What are your priorities? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Know those things now. And we all have weaknesses. We all do. And if we're not constantly learning as a student throughout this profession, we're not going to get better, and we're not going to be impactful. I often say this. I had a music ed student in last week, and I was actually using my desk. So just imagine this is my desk. He's like, "Oh, I know all of this about music. I know all this about music," and I'm like, "Stop. When we all die, the amount that you're going to know musically speaking is going to be this speck on my desk." And they were like, "What?" I said, "This world of music is so vast. And the more I live, the more I wake up every day, the more I realize I don't know a lot about music." This is 22 years of teaching now at a variety of different levels. And you feel pretty confident about things and like, okay, you can go into rehearsal and you can do these things to make this work, but you find out more and more what you really don't know the more that you know, which can be frustrating. And it can feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to give up, forget this. I'm going to go work in the corporate world where there's a success. You know it right away. But this is also one of the most rewarding professions because, again, look at this. You get to do this. This is so awesome. And you're going to get to do this with your own students, whatever this is for you. It's so beyond the financial part, which I know that's important. Yeah, you got to live, right? you have to live, yes. But there is nothing like it. And there's been other opportunities to get out or go other places. And it's just, to each their own. Everyone has their prerogative. But just keep on keeping on. And the things that you're doing here, the way that you're reacting to things, and I don't know. You're going to be some great stars in our music ed profession. And don't give up because it is frustrating. Yeah.
When you were teaching high school marching band and all that sort of thing in the fall, how and when do you shift your focus from helping them learn the music and march on the field or whatever to watching the student conductors of the drum major? Because I remember back in the fall watching some of those marching bands, and some of them, whether the pit was on the sideline or on the field, you could tell the pit was watching, but I'm not sure the same was true for the rest of the marchers.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things there that, I try and integrate that into the entire learning process, whether it's the drum majors or myself. Building that credibility, I think, is really important from day one. So I've always asked my drum majors, and I actually do the same thing here when we actually used to rehearse in here, but I said, even when I'm conducting, you need to be conducting as well, to where it's visible. And so you start to build up rapport with the ensemble. Once you get out on the field and we start to, again, transition things, there's a little bit of a mixture of things. And, if you would have asked me this 20 years ago, I probably would have had a different answer. And so this is more experience now of the science of listening. And part of how the marching band is set up is your front ensemble in the traditional place. And I've done, when I was teaching in high school setting, my front ensemble was probably very rarely in the traditional place. I had them on the field, over here, side one, I had them split. It could be a variety of different things. So I think all of that changes some things based on how we're using these. And so more than anything, I would work with my ensemble and our drum majors to talk about where's the actual ictus. And the drum majors knew that they need to be watching center snare's feet. So they see the tempo and they lock that in. That center snare knew also they needed to be eyes on the drum major. So there were some mutual things, and it sounds like, well, geez, you just kind of forced that. I said, well, I probably did, but I'm like, center snare, come here. Drum major, come here. Let's meet each other for the first time. Oh, wow, well, this is really great. So we started to build a relationship there. And then that started to create that heartbeat where those on the field, depending on where you are, again, within the drill itself, where you're listening to and where you key into things and where you pay attention to those drum. So I think there's a lot of that we have to talk more about the scientific aspect of the acoustics of sound and how that travels on the field. Which is why one of the reasons when you're in a rehearsal setting, if anyone's ever running a Met from up front, that's the worst thing. Put the Met in the very back And even better if you have somebody that can, if you have a battery that you're using, have that meant right there with the battery. So as they're traveling around, that starts to tell the ensemble to listen to the battery itself. So
Not a snare with the, like, your center snare having.
you could. Part of that though, one of the things that sometimes there can be some instability with that, just in terms of that consistency, because you're asking now that snare person to, especially if we're writing true drill for the drum line as opposed to elevator drill, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which sometimes a lot of college marching bands do. I try and write specifically for ours to move a little bit more. A lot of that depends on the complexity of the drum parts. But yeah, sometimes that consistency of trying to keep that snare, locked into that tempo while they're trying to execute drill, while they're trying to keep things together, that's a lot to ask. So having that constant Dr. beat going, that helps the overall pulse of the entire ensemble. Oh, I'm fine. If people have more questions, but yeah, I don't want to take any more time for you all. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the week we get back, we've got 3 things going on. Wednesday night, the 23rd. I said the 23rd. It is the 23rd. Is the music shop, and they're probably gonna talk about repairs. And they've got handouts for the whole thing. Very exciting. And then the following day, Thursday, is gonna be a grade 2 concert, reading to work. And then Saturday at 5 o'clock in Smith, Mr. Peterson fireside chat, and he's been begging us to do for like years. So
Your last opportunity.
You'd be very thrilled if you could be there for that. And then come to my recital Saturday at 5.
Sorry, you said what time is the repair thing on Wednesday?
That's 30 in the fish bowl. Thank you so much. Make sure you got your music from
If you all have any other questions, either later on or whatever, please feel free to stop by anytime. Always happy to share. I don't have all the answers. I'll find out more and more. I really don't have the answers, but happy to chat anytime.
What's your favorite color?
Favorite color? Navy.
Oh, okay.
Why not?